And Darren, when we hear from Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, clearly it's this Northern Ireland protocol that's still the major barrier, literally. What are we likely to get from the new Rishi Sunak government on this? Because perhaps we've seen some softening of positions on various things after the Liz Truss approach. Could that be the same on Northern Ireland?
Well, it's going to be really fascinating, this. Doogie is right in pointing out that there seemed to be at least the good mood music in recent weeks around the Northern Ireland Protocol. We heard it from both London and indeed Dublin and Brussels, with suggestions that there was now the space for a deal, and we hadn't heard that mood music for quite a long time. Essentially, this idea that there would be a compromise on goods going from Great Britain into Northern Ireland as long as they stayed inside Northern Ireland. The EU seemingly willing to compromise on these kind of green lanes, if you like. At the same time, with the British government potentially prepared to compromise on the role of the ECJ, the European Court of Justice, in administering the kind of parameters of that deal. So there did seem to be room for a deal. Will that still hold on a Rishi Sunak? Not entirely sure. It depends how politically he feels confident in all of this, because clearly the ERG, the right-wing group, the Brexiteers within his party, do not want to see necessarily a massive compromise on the protocol. Though, interestingly, he has spoken in the last 24 hours or so to both the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin in Dublin, and to Ursula von der Leyen in Brussels, the EU Commission President, essentially saying that the Prime Minister restating his preference for a negotiated solution. That was with Ursula von der Leyen. And with the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, they agreed that there was a preference for that negotiated outcome and hoped that all parties would approach the current challenges with pragmatism and goodwill. Read into what you want, Mark. We're just going to have to wait and see if there is the prospect of a deal. All I would add is the political uncertainty in Northern Ireland, the rhetoric we may well see during an election campaign when both sides tend to run towards the extremes rather than the centre, may make the prospect of any deal a little bit more difficult.
Now, we were hearing that perhaps the appointment of Suella Braverman was to buy off effectively the ERG, the right wing of the party. Clearly, it's proved another difficulty for the Prime Minister in these opening days, with no less than a former party chairman saying or questioning whether she should have been appointed.
Yeah, Michael Gove said yesterday, Mark, the politics was going to be boring again. There is no sense of that today. And it is a reminder, though, that Rishi Sunak may well have had a good PMQs yesterday. The cabinet reshuffle, to a large degree, went relatively well, and he has brought some stability to the markets, but there is still a lot of infighting inside the Conservative Party, being no doubt about that. And there is concern about the appointment of Suella Braverman, not least of all about this suggestion, at least, that the Cabinet Secretary was not very happy with the reappointment, given the breaches of the Ministerial Code only a week before. How do we know that there were breaches? Several breaches of the Ministerial Code. Well, you only had to listen to Jake Berry, the former chairman of the party, up until this week, under Liz Truss, saying that Suella Braverman essentially was fired because she broke that code several times. Even suggestions today, Mark, that MI5 have had to step in to brief the Home Secretary. Yes, to brief the Home Secretary on security clearance. Quite incredible. There is a lot of political pressure. Have to wait and see where this story runs to next.